For more than half a century, there's been one story that has absolutely baffled American investigators. I mean, it's a tale of pure audacity. A single man, a daring jump from a commercial plane, right into the total unknown. Today, we are going to unravel the mystery of D.B. Cooper, the ghost who hijacked a plane and just, well, vanished. Okay, so I want you to picture this, a Boeing 727 getting tossed around in a massive storm. Inside, you can just feel the tension. Outside, nothing, just a black void of icy rain. And right out of this chaos, a lone figure leaps, clutching a bag full of stolen cash, and is just completely swallowed by the night. So, the big questions are, who was this guy? A total daredevil? A madman? Or something else entirely? To even start to figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. All right, the date is November 24th, 1971. It's the day before Thanksgiving, so you know the scene. Airports are just buzzing with people, families are trying to get home. The mood is pretty festive. And over at Portland International, nobody, has the slightest clue that one of the most audacious crimes in American history is literally about to unfold. So this guy walks up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He's probably in his mid-40s, looks sharp in a business suit, carrying a briefcase. Now, it is so hard to imagine this today with all the security we have, but back in 1971, air travel was a whole different ballgame. No ID checks, no metal detectors. You could just walk up, buy a ticket with cash under a fake name like Dan Cooper, and get on a plane. No questions asked. And yeah, that's precisely what he did. Okay, so not long after takeoff, this guy is just calmly sipping a bourbon and soda, super casual. He passes a note to a flight attendant, Florence Schaffner. Now, she just assumes it's his phone number or something, right? So she just slips it in her pocket. But then he leans in close and he says, quietly, "Miss, you'd better look at that note." And then the punchline, "I have a bomb." So she reads the note and he cracks open his briefcase, just enough for her to get a look inside. And wow, her heart must have just stopped. She sees this mess of red sticks, tangled wires, a big battery. It was immediately clear this was no joke. His demands were super specific, and you could tell he'd thought this through. The cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready to go. The heist was officially on. Let's talk about that money for a second. $200,000. You have to remember, back in 1971, that was a staggering amount of cash. We're talking enough to buy like a dozen houses in the suburbs. In today's money, that's over $1.4 million. That's life-changing, disappear off the face of the earth kind of money. But you know what's truly wild? The chilling calm inside the plane. For 2 hours, the plane just circled Seattle, while the FBI was scrambling to get the ransom together. And the passengers, they were just told there was a small mechanical issue. So they're just sitting there, totally clueless, while a man in the back of the plane is literally holding all of their lives in his hands. So once they land in Seattle, Cooper makes the trade. 36 passengers for the cash and the parachutes. Now think about this. The passengers are safe. He could have just walked away right then and there. But nope, he had other plans. And his next move is what takes this from just a crime to a straight-up legend. His new flight plan was incredibly specific. He wanted to fly towards Mexico City, refuel in Reno. But it was the how that was so telling. He demanded they stay below 10,000 feet, keep the speed under 150 knots, and, this is the big one, fly with the aft stairs down and open. I mean, these weren't the demands of some random guy. Cooper clearly knew the Boeing 727, and he knew exactly how to turn it into his own personal escape pod. What he was about to do, I mean, even the most experienced skydivers would call it suicide. He was about to jump into a black, unforgiving void. The temperature outside was way below freezing, with a wind chill that could knock you out in minutes. And he's doing all of this in a business suit and loafers. Into the middle of a raging storm. It's just insane. So, just after 8 p.m., Cooper tells the rest of the crew to get into the cockpit and stay there. A few minutes later, they feel it. A sudden upward jolt, a change in the air pressure. By the time the plane landed in Reno, the aft stairs were down. The money, 2 of the parachutes, and the man they called Dan Cooper were gone. And get this, 2 Air Force jets were tailing the plane, but in that storm, in that darkness, they saw absolutely nothing. He had just vanished, leaving behind a totally baffled FBI and a mystery that would last for decades. Well, as you can imagine, the hunt for DB Cooper kicked off immediately. It became one of the biggest, most expensive investigations the FBI had ever launched. The code name was Norjack, and it would go on for decades, with agents chasing down thousands of leads. For them, it must have felt like they were literally chasing a ghost. You know, for a guy who pulled off a crime this big, Cooper was incredibly disciplined. The only things he left behind on that plane, a black clip-on tie, a tie clip, and 8 cigarette butts. That's it. For the FBI, it was a frustratingly blank slate. They had almost nothing to go on. And here's a little twist you might not know. The name that's now legendary, DB Cooper, he never used it. That was actually a media screw-up. The hijacker called himself Dan Cooper, maybe inspired by a Belgian comic book hero. But a reporter made a mistake, and the name DB Cooper just stuck. And that's the moniker that went down in history. The initial search on the ground was just a monumental effort. We're talking hundreds of soldiers combing through the super rugged, unforgiving wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's just a huge area of dense forests and treacherous mountains. But as the days turned into weeks and then into years, the trail went completely cold. They found nothing. Zip. For 9 long years, the case file basically just collected dust. Then, out of nowhere, in 1980, a totally random stroke of luck. An 8-year-old kid is digging a fire pit by the Columbia River, and he stumbles onto something that just blows the whole investigation wide open again. 3 rotting bundles of cash. And yep, the serial numbers were a perfect match for the Cooper ransom money. But here's the thing. This amazing clue, instead of giving them answers, it just made the mystery even deeper. See, the money was found miles and miles away from where the FBI calculated he would have landed. So how in the world did it get there? Did Cooper actually survive and bury some of it? Or did the cash just wash ashore, a ghostly reminder of a crime that had long gone cold? Over the years, the FBI chased down just countless leads. They interviewed over 1,000 potential suspects. And yeah, there were some pretty compelling characters. Copycat hijackers like Richard McCoy, guys who confessed on their deathbeds like Dwayne Weber, even airline insiders like Kenneth Christensen. But every single time, the evidence just fell short. The ghost just remained a ghost. So, with no culprit to pin this on, something funny started to happen. The image of DB Cooper, the criminal, the extortionist, it started to fade away. And something else took its place. He became a legend, a modern-day folk hero, a symbol of rebellion against the system. So what really happened to him? I mean, that's the question at the very heart of this whole legend, right? Did he just plummet to his death in that frozen wilderness, a victim of his own crazy plan? Or did he somehow pull it off? Did he actually land, grab his money, and just walk away, living out his life in total anonymity, laughing at the authorities who could never, ever find him? His status as a folk hero is so real that in the little town of Ariel, Washington, which isn't far from the supposed jump zone, they actually hold a DB Cooper Day festival every year. Think about that. He's not just a criminal anymore. He's a local legend, the ultimate underdog who took on the system and, for all we know, won. So at the end of the day, who was the real Dan Cooper? Was he a brilliant criminal mastermind who planned every last detail with military precision? Or was he just an incredibly lucky guy who stumbled his way into the heist of the century, only to get swallowed up by the very wilderness he tried to conquer? The truth, it seems, is just as elusive as the man himself, lost somewhere in those stormy skies on that Thanksgiving Eve. And you know what? Maybe that's exactly how he wanted it.